back, everyone, to another episode of Sisto Says, powered by Design 2147, a New York City building and code expediting company here in New York City. Today I have Steve Marcellino from Lippolis Electric. Steven, welcome back.
Sisto, what's up, buddy? How's
How are
everybody
you?
doing?
Oh, we're doing good.
Like Sisto said, Steven Marcellino, Vice President of Sales at Lippolis Electric, and I either have really nice cologne or Sisto must like me a lot because this is my third time back on the show.
Yeah,
so
well, welcome back, Steve.
I appreciate you having me back for a third time, and I like to see you're constantly keeping up with the sneaker trends here. It's nice. I made sure I broke out a good pair for you today.
No, I like it. I like the white and gray.
Yeah,
so it's my.
We're
I got
kind
my
of
little,
matching today.
I got my little dudes on.
Yeah.
So you're back.
That's it.
So one of the great things about having guests back is as a subject matter expert in the electrical world and being out there doing sales, meeting with property managers, building owners. We talked last year about NFPA.
Correct.
I believe it was 70B.
70B, and we touched on NFPA 70E a little bit as well.
Which is basically, building maintenance of your electrical systems.
Correct.
So the law was passed through NFPA about a year ago.
Correct.
So tell us a little bit about what you're seeing. Are the property managers reaching out to you, asking you to go through and do the due diligence and look at what needs repair and maintenance? So tell us a little bit about what the law, just to refresh, what the law really is, or NFPA is for this section of the maintenance, and what the vibe is out there in the property management world.
Yeah, so I think just to recap from when we initially spoke, because some time has passed, it was, listen, preventative maintenance has been around for years, but in New York City, the big thought process behind preventative maintenance was wait until it breaks. Reactive maintenance was kind of like the go-to preference for New York City because, call it what it is, building managers or building owners are always tenant concerned. So they want their lobbies to look a specific way. They want their cafeterias to be a specific way. Front of house amenities were always the number one priority. But as New York City, gets older, and we all know New York City is one of the, it has a very old infrastructure. Preventative maintenance is becoming more relevant because, there's a few factors. Aside from getting into the code side of it, the supply chain issues, the volatility and costs for commodities like copper, just the overall economy in general in America, around the world, is fluctuating so much. Pricing stability is really unpredictable, and doing the preventative maintenance from a proactive standpoint helps you stay ahead of equipment failure. So instead of calling your contractor, Lippolis Electric preferably, on a Saturday at, 11 o'clock at night because your panel blew or a breaker tripped or a fuse blew up, you have that peace of mind from doing the preventative maintenance that
everything's in order.
That everything's in order, or, hey, we found this problem with your panel. You don't need to replace it. We're going to come up with a remedial solution that's going to be cost efficient to the facility and its operation, but at least you have the peace of mind that A, everybody in the building and interacting with the infrastructure is safe, and B, you're not going to wake up on a Saturday night at 11 a.m. or Saturday night at 11 p.m. because something blew up in your building and you need to, call all the troops in to repair it unexpectedly.
And the cost of that is astronomical.
And the cost is astronomical and uncontrolled. You can't factor that into a budget forecast.
Sure. So tell us a little bit about that. Is that are there a certain set of criteria that your team goes through a building and says, okay, we start at the transfer switch or the switchgear room and we work our way through the whole building?
Yeah, so typically what I like to do when I walk a building, I base it all, so NFPA 70B, just to bring it back real quick, back in 2023 became a national code / standard for building electrical safety and electrical safety in the workplace and also electrical maintenance as well. And NFPA 70B is specific to the maintenance. NFPA 70E is specific to electrical safety. Now, the electrical maintenance code specifies, frequencies that specific pieces of equipment need to be maintained in certain time frames.
Okay.
And also there is condition assessments. So depending on the condition assessment category that the equipment falls into, that's going to determine
How
the
often.
frequency if it
Makes
is
sense.
being
'Cause
done
if it's
on a
new,
regular
you
basis.
don't have to do it that often. If it's been around for 20 years, then maybe you got to check it once a year versus once every
Correct.
3 years.
Specifically, like infrared thermography, regardless of condition assessment, is supposed to be done annually. Major distribution, de-energized maintenance, which is like the torquing, cleaning, lubrication, mechanical operations tests, insulation resistance testing, contact resistance testing, is supposed to be done every 3 to 5 years, and protective relays are supposed to be tested every 2 years.
Oh, wow.
So those are like the big ones, and then from there there's so many different electrical apparatuses. We could sit here all day and talk about frequencies. Obviously, if anybody has specific questions,
How are you
they
finding?
could contact
How are you
me.
finding the New York City market when you go to sell that?
Yeah, so in the beginning, I've been working with this product, this preventative maintenance product, for about 5 years now. In the beginning, it was an uphill battle as a sale. Everybody in the New York City market was extremely resistive against it. After COVID, I think it was just a perfect storm of current events, so to speak. Like I mentioned before, the supply chain, jobs being shut down, buildings, not operating 100%. People couldn't afford failures, so people started becoming more open-minded, maybe not jumping right into it, but getting educated on it. Once people were willing to be educated and learn more about what preventative maintenance was, they started saying, all right, maybe not this year, but we'll do it next year. So back to your question on how it's done to scope a project, I or one of my team members goes into a building, and I always like to, whether they're going to test the full building or not, I always like to walk the full building infrastructure, whether it's a 5,000 square foot office space or a 3 million square foot tower or hospital, because the more I know about your infrastructure, the more I can help consult you.
Obviously.
And I always
Makes
like
sense.
to start from the main switchgear service, then I look at the emergency power, then I look at the mechanical, the chillers, the boiler rooms, all the back of house mechanical, the different motor starters, VFDs, disconnect switches. We'll test everything, custom control cabinets. And then from there, I go out to auxiliary power, lighting panels, receptacle panels, and I just work from critical to, daily operation. And from there, I'll use the NFPA 70B guideline for condition assessment to categorize if it's a 1, 2, 3 level condition. And then I start from there based on the condition of the equipment. And then I'll design a custom electrical preventative maintenance program based on the attributes of the infrastructure, the manufacturer recommendations, the NETA standard for that equipment, and the NFPA 70B recommendations. So from a full circle, everybody is, you don't have to worry about non-compliance or not being protected if you have one of my programs in your hand.
Okay. And so you're feeling like New York City's starting to catch up.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, some notable projects we've accomplished over the course of just the past year. We shut down a 2.5 million square foot building in Brooklyn. That was not a simple project. It was a very complex project, but the client received the full circle of service, very well. We did an infrared test, visual inspection of the whole building, about 1,200 pieces of electrical equipment. Their main switchgear had some nasty problems. It was a 480 service, not a small service. It was 4,000 amp lineups, 4 separate POEs from Con Edison. And there was a lot of high, high value tenants in their building that couldn't afford downtime. So not only did we do the infrared thermography, we identified the problems, we recommended the remedial solutions, because when we find a problem, we tell you how to correct the problem, so you're not just left with
I got a problem, but I don't have a solution.
But I don't have a solution, which a lot of people do. And we went in there and we actually designed a full temporary power infrastructure for them.
Wow.
Set up 2 1 megawatt generators in parallel with each other to a common bus, to a temporary 4,000 amp board, ran 18,000 linear feet of cable to the cellar, and we temped out each switchgear service individually, worked on 1 switchgear service a week, kept the building on temporary generator. Nobody even knew what was going on aside from the fact there was generators outside of the building. and we were able to remediate the problems. We brought in custom fabricated bus. It was a whole procedure, and we got that switchgear, which has been there for probably 30 years, back into new condition.
Wow.
And that's one major project that we did.
That sounds enormous.
That's one of many. So, it doesn't matter if it's one distribution panel that needs to be worked on, a 20 amp, circuit breaker that needs to be changed, or if you need a full building shutdown on a large commercial tower, hospital, or data center. That's something that's kind of in my wheelhouse of, being able to support these larger commercial tenants in New York City.
That's great. That sounds incredibly interesting.
Yeah.
So there's always moving parts in New York City.
Always
moving parts nationally in the electrical code.
Correct.
So tell us a little bit about what's going on these days with energy conservation.
Yeah. So Local Law 88, which is energy, it's specific to New York City, an energy conservation code. Any building, I believe, that's over 25,000 square feet has to comply with this code. And it's a culmination of, building BMS system integration, LED lighting, being prepared to receive car chargers, and it's all kind of tied back to the green initiative of America to kind of get America away from, harmful energy usage, so the experts say. And, because New York City is such a large city,
every little bit helps.
Every little bit helps. So, there's different types of studies, which we are capable of doing. I know how to do them as well. They're considered energy audits, where you go in and you analyze the infrastructure for what it is currently based on the square footage. And you make sure that all the lights are LED compliant.
Right.
You make sure that the BMS system is in place. You make sure that the, if there's a parking garage space or parking lot outside of a building, that they have a certain percentage of spots with car chargers in them. And, it's to help really just prepare New York City to be more green. That's really what it comes down to. And it helps with all those different LEED certifications, LEED,
Yep.
And helps you get your building classifications, if you want to increase it. That's why I don't think it's specific to Local Law 88, but some of these newer buildings, they put like a birdhouse on the roof of the building, you know what I mean, to help expand the ecosystem in general.
Sure.
So that's kind of where Local Law 88 goes.
And where do you see the steam on that in New York City?
It's a law.
Right. But I'm saying, are you getting calls that people are aggressively?
All the time.
Oh, wow.
That's
great.
Yeah, we have full building portfolios calling us to really get involved and saying, we have 28 buildings. Every single building needs to be Local Law 88 compliant by this date. Otherwise, the fines are insane.
Right.
So, so these people, they really want to make sure that they're ahead of the curve. So when DOB comes knocking on the door, they are able to show what they've done.
And I'm sure there's a value to it also. I'm sure that you're finding things that are helping them, saving them a few dollars possibly.
I mean, listen, at the end of the day, if you go from, your standard halogenic light to an LED light, from running your HVAC system from a disconnect opposed to a VFD that's controlling motor frequencies, or whatever the scenario may be,
there's a savings.
There's going to be a cost savings at the bottom line. It might not be in the first year, but over a course of 5-10 years, you're going to see money back.
You're going to see your ROI.
Yeah, 100%.
It's incredible how LEDs have changed the world.
Yeah,
I mean, they used to be so expensive, and now you can get one that's tiny that puts so much more light out at such a smaller cost and in terms of energy usage.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. The LED lights are great, and there's a big conversation, I'll call it. I don't want to say it's a conflict. It's not really a conflict in the industry, but there's LED, and now people are also coming out with the solar lights. Solar lights are great, but the problem with solar lights is they're a maintenance nightmare, because when a solar light breaks, that's it. It's not like there's drivers and different wires and this and that inside of a solar light. When a solar light breaks, the whole fixture needs to be replaced.
Oh wow! So it's fixture, it's fixture driven, not light driven.
More or less. I mean, perfect example. We have a client right now that had, 7 lights on a rooftop of their building in Brooklyn, illuminating a walkway for an amenity space, residential tower. And they had 7 of these lights go out, and we sent technicians there to troubleshoot them, and they're like, they're broken. Like, there's nothing we could do. They're just broken fixtures that need to be replaced. Go online, talk to my suppliers, get the pricing. Each fixture at our cost was $1,400 a light.
Whoa.
Before labor or anything, more overhead and all of that. So, at the time during design and construction, and conceptually to the architect, it seemed maybe like a good idea. But now that they need to maintain it, they're looking at a pretty big proposal to change some lights, to the point where they're entertaining the idea of finding power and just running, LED lights to those locations, because LED lights are easier to maintain.
Yeah.
And
they last forever.
And if they blow out, you change a light bulb.
Right. It's not the end of the world.
It's not the end of the world.
Right. And, so that's a great point, that in any of the codes, when we start to talk about, there are problems when you have something like solar that, okay, you're not paying anything for it, but when it breaks, it's 5 times the price or 10 times the price. Well, how do you could buy an LED light fixture that's probably in really a nice light fixture for a couple of $100 versus $1,400, and that's your cost, at wholesale.
Yeah.
Right. So imagine retail, you're buying them.
It's ridiculous. Even like small paver lights. We have another client that they needed to change. They had these small paver lights that New York City forced the building to put in during construction, and now like 20 of them are out. Each light costs $500.
Right.
They got 30 of them. So what? Every time 30 lights goes out, they got to spend an exuberant amount of money to replace them. It's a maintenance nightmare. But at the end of the day, solar is a great idea to everybody. I'm sure in the next 10, 15 years, the costs will stabilize once more development comes out.
It's like anything else. Yeah. When the technology's new, it's expensive, and then as people get to reproduce it and keep using it and marketing it differently and using it differently, the cost always comes down.
Correct.
And the demand comes down because they can mass produce it better, and all of those things come along. So what's the rumbling on the street? What's new? What do you think? Any new local laws coming out? Anything else coming out in the next year or so that you're seeing that's really like a game changer?
I don't think it's a matter of any new local laws coming out. The one big thing that I see that anybody in the construction industry probably sees, specifically to New York City, I think there's a major slowdown in commercial construction over the course of the past couple of years. I think the pandemic has a big part to do with it.
Without question. I think that we overlooked the fact that we thought COVID's over, open the faucet, we're going to get full stream. It's been dribs and drabs since that. And I think every sector, doesn't mean we're not busy, but for some reason there's this perception, even for us, even for everybody we talk, everybody seems to think it would be different. And I don't know what that difference is. Speaking to a lot of people on the podcast, speaking to a lot of people when I'm networking, everyone comes to the same thing, like, well, it's not the same. And that's like the common denominator. And I don't know what that definition really means. It's not the same.
I think there was I agree, it's not the same. And my perception of not the same in this scenario is, I think there was just a major shift in thought process that maintain what's there, make what is existing
work,
upgrade it, and run it.
Right.
Now, from that, what I mean by that
is
adaptive reuse. So it's kind of the mindset. I know you love this term. People are understanding, don't throw good money after bad money, finally. No. And I think it's a matter of, I have this beautiful building, let me do a fit out here and change my building around to be more adaptable to the times, opposed to just building a new tower that I'm not going to be able to fill right now.
100%.
And that's...
But there is, people walk around New York City and go, oh my God, there's cranes, there's construction everywhere. But some of those permits took us 3-4 years to get.
Yeah.
It's not new stuff.
No, it's stuff that's been sitting stagnant.
Right. The stuff that's new won't be ready for another year or two because we
No.
didn't even file it yet.
No.
So we've definitely seen our RFPs for new construction go way down.
Yeah.
I mean, we used to get 7, 8 a month, and we're lucky we get 1 or 2. And most of them that are new buildings aren't in the sectors where we were before. We're looking at a lot of city projects, schools, things like that, where they're government funded, not privately funded.
Yeah, and I think outside of like the new construction is right now more than ever. I think service is huge. Maintenance and service, I think, is gonna take over again. You know, I know back in like the early 2000s and the 90s, service model businesses were massive, and I think that's resurfacing. I think.
Well, I met Lippolis Electric on new builds. You know,
Correct.
I didn't know you guys doing the other stuff, but
No.
but I met you on new builds, and nowadays you don't have the new builds you guys used to have years ago.
No, it's different. It's,
Yeah,
it's
you know, even and not even just in New York. You guys did a lot of new builds in Westchester, White Plains. You know,
Yep.
I say Westchester, but like White Plains, Ryde, New Rochelle. You guys did towers there.
Yeah.
That market's dried up too.
we've built millions of square feet worth of residential towers. You know, we built some of the biggest buildings in New York City, and you know now it's just aside from the market drying up, like I said before, all these developers that built these buildings, you know, now they need to maintain them, and they
Sure.
need to.
And there's no land for them to build new ones because it's too expensive.
Exactly. You know, Hudson Yards had a big boom. We did the Spiral building in Hudson Yards, 66 Hudson Boulevard. That was a monster. It was like 2.87 million square feet. You know, 66 stories vertical. That was a monster. You know, how many of those types of buildings can a developer afford? You know what I mean? It was the largest private construction loan in the history of the construction industry. $2 billion loan from BlackRock. And, you know, those jobs, they're a dime a dozen.
Sure.
You know, so now we've built, you know, I could proudly say we've been involved with, major development shifts throughout the years in New York City.
Oh, us too.
And
When you're around long enough, that's what happens.
That's what happens.
It's
And
the cycle.
and now it's a matter of doing those interior fit outs, maintaining institutions, doing the preventative maintenance, you know, handling service calls, offering that next level of service to people after construction.
Right.
And that's a major shift I see.
And I
in the
think
industry
that's something you and I have discussed over the years, that's really your sweet spot is
Yeah.
going back to the existing client and saying, hey, you built yourself a great building. Don't forget about maintaining it. And,
Correct.
And we got programs, we have ideas, we have business plans that you can review, that we can show you that over time the plan works, the system works. It alleviates the stress. It alleviates you being down, your tenants being down. Why not do it?
Correct. Yeah, and there's a lot behind it too. You know, from a business perspective, also assisting in stabilizing your electrical operating budgets.
Sure.
You know, making sure the proper safety plans are in place prior to even doing anything. I'm able to run a cost benefit analysis on the cost of somebody's infrastructure and more or less appraise it for them against the cost of maintenance and identify to you from, you know, a high level what your savings would be on performing preventative maintenance against the cost of the infrastructure. You know,
Right.
if you had a total loss, hey, your infrastructure is worth $20 million. This maintenance program's $20,000. I mean, you know, what's your exposure here?
Right. It's nothing.
It's nothing.
It's peanuts.
You know, and behind that.
But yet it's amazing you have to convince people of that.
I mean, listen, some of it is people doing their due diligence to make sure I know what I'm talking about.
Of course.
And then part of it is, people need to be educated and
But you're a
taught.
salesman. Everyone should, you know, I'm a salesman too. You know,
That's
that's
it.
just the way it is, you know. But there's nothing wrong with that because
No.
I look at it as if we're educating them and we're bringing attention to it that otherwise maybe they never would.
Correct.
So I think that's really important that's part of the role of what we do. Although it is sales, it's also education.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we're here selling, you know, life safety and you know, real life services that if people don't know about them, they could be caught with their pants down.
Well, listen, first of all, I've always said this before, in construction, there's very few things that you can't screw around with. And one of them is electric, because electric is deadly.
Silent killer.
Silent killer. And it goes across the board. It has no prejudiceness, starting from the hole all the way through the streets of New York into your building and up through your building. It takes no prisoners when it goes sour, and there's a big responsibility there. So as always, Steve, since you've been on the show many times, right? We always talk about projecting the future. The great Andrew Peters from Curry and Brown. We got to look forward, not backwards, right?
Correct.
So give us that one prediction of where you think the market's headed in the electrical world, because that's really what you sell. What's your forecast for the construction? I know we touched on it a little bit, but give me like one thing in particular. Do you think that we're going to see more money being thrown after maintenance, or do you think it's going to be more of, our buildings are getting old, we gotta just gut them and redo them?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a culmination of both. I think maintenance is a little bit of an easier concept for people to grasp. I mean, doing those gut renovations, core shell fit outs, however people call them, they're definitely much more cumbersome projects. We've been a part of building repositionings and done that kind of work. It's great, but they're definitely projects. So I think maintenance and service is going to be a major staple in the industry in general, not even just for the near future. I think I'm seeing it every day. There's a major shift in the way people are thinking and the way building management companies are operating and the way owner operators are, running their properties, and they want to stay ahead of problems before they become problems, so they don't need to worry in 10, 20 years about gutting their whole building and, completely redeveloping.
So you're reinforcing that they're taking their assets and pumping them back into their building.
Correct.
Instead of looking for a new project.
Correct. I think so. And
it's funny that you say that, because last night I was at an event, and that's exactly what this person who was a developer is saying. We have 18 assets in New York City. We're really not looking for new sites. We're looking to revitalize ours. They were in the hospitality world. 5 to 7 years, they redo them anyway, but they're doing them completely different than they were before. That the model that they had 5 years ago with built-ins and with certain lighting and certain music and certain, different fragrances that they use in the hotel. They've re-looked at the entire model and how it's really done a 180 compared to what was there 7 years ago. So in reality, in the hospitality world, their hotels are boring now.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And it only takes 7 years. So, but an office building could take 20 years. And we see that with Class A, B, and C buildings. Class A buildings are doing fantastic in New York City. Class C buildings are in the pooper.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just
not doing well.
They're not doing well at all.
And then another thing, aside from maintenance in general, because I'd be foolish to think maintenance is the only thing that's going to happen in the industry.
No.
I think life sciences is a huge one. Life science and technology, pharmaceutical companies. Hospitals are expanding. Look at White Plains Hospital, in Westchester County, all over the place. Colleges are constantly doing work on campuses, institutions.
Right, but even in the college world, there's not as much new construction.
No.
But they're reusing spaces that the programming's changed, because not all the kids are there all the time now. They've got more virtual. They're using more spaces that they can keep reprogramming without ripping the whole thing apart. They're much more flexible. Yep. So that means electrical needs to be more flexible. Mechanical needs to be more flexible. All of those things, drive what's going on. But like you said, 10 years ago, it was all new buildings. Now it's not as many, but there's still stuff going on.
Correct.
Well, it's always a pleasure to have you, Stephen. Always
you,
a world
Sisto.
of information. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for taking a day out of your busy day.
Always a pleasure.
And always a shout out to Carmine, and
Thank you.
Thank him for allowing you to come on the show.
Always.